Hey parents, welcome to the Mommy Pod, where we keep it real about parenthood. The joy, the chaos, and everything in between. I'm your host, a single mom, educator, and everyday woman learning to give herself grace while chasing her dreams. Whether you're folding laundry, stuck in traffic, or sneaking in 5 minutes of peace, this space is your reminder that you're not alone. And you're doing better than you think. So, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a drink, take a deep breath, and let's get into today's episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Mommy Pod. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have Naomi here. She's a registered dietitian, a certified nutrition-based weight loss coach, a certified Christian life coach, and the founder of BFF Methodology. As a former single mom, Naomi shares how faith became her anchor while raising children, pursuing her education, and building a career dedicated to helping women reclaim their health. Together, they explore how true wellness goes beyond the number on the scale and starts with renewing your mind, nourishing your body, and leaning on community. Whether you're overwhelmed by diet culture, struggling to find balance as a busy mom, or looking for a faith-centered approach to wellness, this episode offers practical encouragement and hope. Thank you so much for joining us, Naomi.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words and what led you to become a registered dietitian and coach?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to just share this information. And that's a really great question. It's not that one I hear most, but I appreciate it because my desire to become a dietitian started many years ago when I was still in high school. And I grew up in Kenya, East Africa. And by that time, nutrition, dietitians, it was a very foreign field to most of us. And I was because when you're in high school where I grew up, in your second year of high school, the teachers will start telling you what is it that you want to pursue when you go to college. And you have to, if you're applying through the government system, not private institutions, you have to determine your career in your second, as you're going to your third year in high school, and then start doing your application. So once you finish your high school, they can give you a college degree program that is close to what you selected. So I had a cousin who was in college at that time, and I was like, you know what? I'm interested in this. What do you think? Originally, I was interested in computer science and then chemical engineering. And then he told me computer science changes so much, and I don't like to read, honestly. I just don't like to read all the time. I don't like something that changes all the time. Little did I know that people changes all the time, and if I'm going to be dealing with people, they change all the time. So, but then that cut off my desire for computer engineering. So I decided to either choose between nutrition and chemical engineering. So the only thing that just put me off with chemical engineering was it dealt with chemicals. I'm not going to deal with people. I love to deal with mothers and children. So I needed something that was going to help me deal with mothers and children. And because at that time I grew up in a Christian home and I knew that eventually at some point I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to grow a family. So I didn't want something that I'm going to use and then I can only use it in the corporate and I can't use it in my own family. So then eventually my cousin tells me there's this new field of life coming nutrition and these are the benefits and these are the things that you'll be doing. And he didn't know much about it, and it wasn't very much explored at that time. And that's how I decided to pursue nutrition. So when I went to college and I started doing the coursework and I just pursued everything that was related to it, I just fell in love with it. And that's we are here today. Fast forward many
Amazing.
years, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What a journey. And what inspired you to create the BFF mythology?
So the method of what I call the BFF, at some point I call it the bestie method of weight loss, is in 2020, just prior to COVID, during COVID time, I was struggling with my own weight, even as a dietitian. At that time, I was going through my registration here in the US because I was transferring my credentials from the Kenyan system to the US system. And even with all the knowledge that I had, I was struggling with a lot of weight. It was after my third child, and I just didn't know what to do. And I had attempted several methods, I had attempted several programs, and all the education that I had gone through was just very jumbled because, as we know, our curriculums don't just give you the practical means. They will give you a lot of science, they will give you a lot of knowledge, but they don't really tailor it for practical living. So then I met this lady that she was a self-trained nutritionist and she was helping people to lose weight. And I learned from her how to be able to just put that all the knowledge that I had into a practical system that works. But then it wasn't until my personal journey when I started applying the things that she was telling us, and I was pulling out from my nutrition education, from my lived experience, and then I'm going into my dietetic internship to become now a registered dietitian. Then it wasn't through that journey, and then I got separated from my children because I had to go to a different city to do my dietetic internship. And it was during that process where, yes, the knowledge was working. I was getting uh, um, results with the knowledge that she was giving me, with the knowledge that I had learned, and compiling all that together, and the community that she was building. But then my faith was one part that I had to lean on a lot. And then one day I was looking, then I was asking myself, right before I went to my internship and before I met this lady, I was asking myself, what is it that I can do to be able to work from home and be a stay-home mom? Instead of just being in the corporate America for the rest of my life. And being a single mom, I was like, I know this is going to be a problem because childcare is not free and it's not cheap here in this country. So I needed something that I can be able to do, be a professional, provide for my children, and also be able to serve, be able to use my knowledge and my expertise and my lived experience to be able to serve. And then I started thinking about I can be a coach. I didn't know anything about coaching even before that. So I started exploring the arena of coaching and what I needed to coach about. And then at some point I was like, why not just begin from what I have experienced, gained results, and I have training for even for that matter. So that's when I decided, so that's when I came in. And then in addition to the knowledge that I had, which was the evidence-based nutrition, and then the community that I knew was extremely important because community, second to my faith and my trust in God, community has been one tool that has shaped who I am, that has brought me to this place where I am today. And so I decided to bring those three pillars together and form a system that a Christian mom, a busy mom, whether Christian or non-Christian, depending on how they are open to exploring their faith, was able to just bring those three pillars together and be able to create a system that is practical, that we can replicate and be able to use even to sustain the results somebody gets.
All right. Thank you so much. Wow, that's smart. That makes sense to have all three of those connected together so that you're not just running on one component. It takes more
Yeah,
than just that, more than just yourself. You mentioned being a single mom while earning your education and building your career and having them in a different city. What was that season like for you? Because I know that that would be really hard, but also really beneficial in the future. So that's one thing that you have to like sacrifice the now for the future. So,
yeah.
what was that season like for you?
In a nutshell, the season was very testing. It was a very trying time. One, I was a new immigrant. I moved over here and I landed here for my master's degree in Boston. It was during the fall, towards the winter. I had never experienced snow. And then around October, November, I realized that I was pregnant. And then a few weeks later, the father of the baby is like, "You're on your own," because he was still back in Africa, and he was like, "You're on your own. I am no longer moving over there, and I'm building a different life now. So you figure out what you're gonna do." So I get immersed into a country. I am new. I'm experiencing a weather that I've never experienced before. I'm experiencing a life that I've never experienced before. And here I am with a pregnancy and learning experience that it's very new because the way the education here is was totally different from the way I grew up learning. So everything was totally new, like from the food I ate, the air that I breathed, to the ground that I stepped on. Everything was new, and it was extremely difficult. And then that was the subsequent, that was like the precursor to even being a mom of two other children, because that first pregnancy led to a lot of depression and a lot of pain, and then it led to just making very foolish decisions in addition to the ones that I've already made. And then by the time a decade was coming to an end, or maybe 5 years to 10 years, I had lived a life of single motherhood with a failed marriage, and two children, two extra children. So now I was a single mom of three children. And now I'm starting my second degree, I'm a second master's, and I'm doing my dietetic internship. And I look back, and apart from the grace of God and the people that I met on the way, I don't know how else I survived. I cannot, I cannot say it was my own strength and stamina that I'm here today. It was by the grace of God and a lot of people that God sent along the way.
Amazing. Sorry, my little one just came in. Yes. Thank God for God and the people that He puts in our life along the way. I feel like He knows who we need to help us in each season of our life.
Yes, He does.
What role has faith played during the hardest moments?
I think faith has been everything. Faith has been just the knowledge and the faith that God is in control, and that God knows me, and that God is going to bring me to the other side has been it's been everything. And everything at this point is not a cliche, just a word that because I have to use it because it's in the dictionary, it's practically He has been everything. God, my faith in God has been even in my schooling, when I had to do homeschooling for my kids during COVID because everything was shut down, to doing 18 credits, both for my dietetic internship and for a master's degree, all the way to defending my thesis and being able to look for a job. I had very great friends that God brought my way, people I didn't know from different countries, people not of my own blood, people not of my own descent. And they became family and they became an anchor. And I wouldn't have met them if it wasn't because of God, because we met in a church that I love here where I live in El Paso. And I remember this lady just taking care of my children for almost a year for me to be able to complete my dietetic internship. And knowing that God was going to take care of everything. And I remember when I was debating on if I need to go to school and leave my children, or if I just need to stay here and remain on a minimum wage job. I remember God bringing to me the story of Moses, that Moses, the mom had to give him away in a basket because she believed that God would take care of him. And it was by faith that Moses grew up in where he grew up without his people, but then ended up becoming one of the greatest men of faith and men used by God in the Old Testament. So faith has been everything.
I love that. And I love that story of Moses. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Testament and a show of how much strength and faith that a woman can have.
Yeah.
Looking back, and I'm so sorry that you went through all of that with the baby's father not wanting to be a part of, the life. And that is so hard because it takes two people to make that choice
Yeah.
of a life coming in. But really, it just takes one person to step up and
Mm-hmm.
the child. So they're lucky to have your children are lucky to have you. So looking back, what would you tell the version of yourself who felt overwhelmed? Because I know there had to have been times where even though we had a great community and you have faith in God, there has been moments where you felt overwhelmed. So what would you say? Do your kids love stories, colors, castles, and adventures? Well, Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle is more than just a storybook. It's an interactive journey where little readers explore colors while building imagination. From the sunny yellows of the Golden Hall to the sparkling blue sapphire shoes that she wears. Each page bursts with magic. Plus, it comes with a coloring book and activity pages, so the fun continues even after the story. It's perfect for toddlers, preschoolers, and early readers. Turn rainy days into rainbow days with Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle. It's the perfect way to teach your little ones colors while sparkling their imagination. It's available now on Amazon KDP.
I think it's interesting you bring that up because I was just thinking about that yesterday. Because I don't think there's a part of a day that, and especially since becoming a mom, where if I were to be honest, the word or the feeling of overwhelm doesn't cross my mind or doesn't just kind of become my feeling. And I think I've come to really appreciate the fact that you can go through a very hard time and still be able to do other things in life. But one of the biggest seasons of pain and overwhelm, I think it was the first time when I realized I was pregnant and I was going through my first master's. And I remember I was living with some distance family, and I remember being in the basement of their house and just I never used to cry before I started having children. And I remember sitting there. I was failing my first master semester, and I was rating below the GPA, and I was like, no, I can't fail. And I as an immigrant, and your parents and your people they've never known you to fail, and they've known you to succeed all your life, and here you're going through a time you don't even know who you are anymore. And I remember the first time I could find myself crying, because up to that point, I had never found myself crying, like tears and bawling myself out. And I remember just breaking down through like days on end. I'm just sitting in that basement. Nobody knows where I am. And everybody's about it, because that's one of the characteristics of being in the US that was very shocking, because you could just stay an entire day and you're in the same house with people and nobody knows where you've not even met anybody for an entire day. And that wasn't common to where I was coming from. And it could be an advantage sometimes because I was able to cry without feeling like answering questions to people, why are you crying and what is going on with your life? And I that was very overwhelming, because like here I have a pregnancy. I have an education that I'm completing. I don't have my mom around. I don't have family. And at that time, because of also the pregnancy, and it was out of wedlock, and coming from a Christian family, that was completely something that was unheard of. And at that point, my parents didn't even know that I was pregnant. And I just completely felt overwhelmed. And I just didn't know what to do. And all I could do day in, day out was to cry. As long as I wasn't doing our homework, I was crying. And that is the biggest part of overwhelm. But then cutting across the years, because that's like over 12 years ago, bringing down the time to now, when you look at growing up now, my oldest is a teenager, and you're looking at the changes of life and the seasons, how they're changing. And you're like, these are three precious lives in my hands. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how I can really be able to make sure that they live the lives that I think I have for them in my mind, other than to go back again and come and submit them to God. And apart from just the word overwhelm, yesterday I was sitting down at a friend's living room during a prayer session. I was like, I don't know how to pray anymore. So it's not something really that kind of escapes, especially when you have to juggle between school for your kids. Now it's holidays, you're trying to juggle between them not being on electronics 24/7 and having to sit down to do clients throughout the day. And then you need to feed them. And then you're also looking at their future. There's the network in their mind that you're looking like, it's not just now. If Jesus doesn't come on this earth in the next 30 years, what will be my children? So it's a word that you have to look at as a gift, but also as a caution. As a gift, because when you feel overwhelmed, then you can hand it over to God. If I feel like I can handle everything, then I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. But when I feel overwhelmed, it's a gift that I can hand it over to God. And when I feel overwhelmed, I can be cautious that I'm still human. And I still need to find community. I still need to find people that God allows in my life, and I can make this journey on my own.
Awesome. Very nice. Thank you. Hand it over to God and
Mhm.
lean on your community. And did you get an answer for? when you were in your prayer group and you said you don't know how to pray right now? Were you able to get an answer?
I think I did. I can't tell you that I can sit down and or kneel down and pray for the next hour, but I think the biggest consolation is when you hear people speak life over you. People that it was just one friend, and when you see somebody going at war for you, when you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be the answer that you can do it for yourself, but it's also to know in times of downtime, you have somebody who can cover you. You have people who can shield you and walk with you. I think that was the biggest blessing from last night. And it's just a practical daily life that we can't get there until time is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I usually, because there's been moments where I've had overwhelm or have gone through a complete breakdown and don't know where to begin my prayers or start, but I just start with thank you. So I
Mhm.
think that that is some advice that I got a long time ago in church, and that's just
Yeah,
something that always stuck with me. So I always just start with thank you,
that's
and
a good one.
he always comes through. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's
let's
true.
talk about nutrition and wellness. Why do so many of us struggle with the relationship with food?
That's a very good question because one, you asking that question the way you asked it, it's because I know that as long as you've been born and you're alive more than 5, 7, 8 years of life, anybody knows what healthy eating is. At least to the point where they're not struggling with a certain disease or a condition that kind of gets complicated, like probably kidney disease or diabetes and things like that. But if you are relatively healthy, you know what healthy eating for you means. And the question now, when we tend to ask, is then why the dissonance between what we know and what we live? And I think the simplest of answer is just like everything else. That why is it that I know saving and investment is good, but yet I can live it? You know, I can get there. And there could be a lot of answers to why we don't live the nutrition that we know. And I think the biggest one is healthy living is a battle. It is not just something that comes naturally, even though it's very natural. And we have a lot of against thing antagonists that come against us. We have a culture that is from the government, from institutions, that as much as we know the science of eating and we know the healthy eating, there's many other competing factors and many competing goals where everybody is trying to gain something out of the people. And food becomes one of the biggest uh, seduction parts of life where people can gain out of the masses because everybody is going to eat. And then when you look at the economy as being so just everything is so fast and there's so much being done. The economies are running so fast. People are continuously having no time to spend on anything. And because the repercussions of poor eating most of the time are not immediate. Like if you don't go to your workplace tomorrow, you're gonna be fired in day 2 or day 3. If you're eating poorly, it doesn't take that short time to see the repercussion. You're not gonna be diabetic just because you ate one bad meal. And because the repercussions or the consequences of bad eating are not that immediate, it becomes the last thing that people want to put an effort to. So, because I'm rushing to go to my job, I have 3 children to take care of. The last thing on my mind is to think of how am I going to have them eat a healthy meal? I just want them fed so that I can go to work, so that I can be able to take a nap, so that I can be able to just make sure that they sleep if I'm working from home. So, you find that healthy eating is competing with so many other goals that yes they are good, yes their base should be the nutrition, but because the food part is the consequences are not so immediate, it becomes like it goes to the back burner. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons why healthy eating becomes so difficult.
Yeah, especially when we're on the go and busy. So,
Mhm.
if a busy mom has only 15 minutes to improve her health today or
Yeah.
any day, just 15 minutes, where should we start?
I think it starts two things. One that you can do at a moment of decision, but a long time of application. And the second one you can just do. in that 15 minutes and do. I think the quickest and the best way to do is to just drink water. That's something that we can do at a span of a moment and then just keep working on that for the rest of your life.
That's really
Because
good. 'Cause
water is one of the biggest good things to do when we live, but we don't do it as much as we need to, but it makes a lot of difference in our health. And I think the second one is not even nutrition related at all. It's just the mindset. Because unless we can start tuning that mindset, and it can just take that a moment of decision. It may take a long time to kind of shift the entire living and life towards the mindset, but deciding that I want to be able to do this. I
Yeah,
think that's a big part to begin from. Because unless I have that decision to be like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and this is why I want to do this. And you can do that in 10 minutes.
yeah.
5 minutes to drink your water and 10 minutes to do that decision.
Yeah, that's very good. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that today, especially the water drinking. I'm so thirsty right now, and I realize I haven't had any water today. That's
Yeah.
the problem. It's 1:33. So yeah, water. Let's go into your BFF mythology. Can you walk us through belief system, food system, and fellowship systems?
So the belief system is we begin where we just stopped a few seconds ago. Mindset. So I don't know who said it, but somebody said, I am what I believe. Like what I see is what I become. Unless I am in my mind, I cannot become physically. And what I say I am in my head, that's who I become in the physical. So when we start talking about healthy eating, when we start talking about weight management, when we are talking about lifestyle disease management, all we want to begin from the idea of mindset. How do I see myself? What is my worldview about food? Do I believe that we don't know when we're going to die, so we just live it up and we do whatever we can, we enjoy and we live it up now. Because if that's my mindset, it's going to influence totally how I live. So our mindset is like the instruments that brings out the output. We can have an ingredient, but if we have a faulty tool to bring, like if we have a blender that is faulty and we are trying to make a smoothie, we will never make that smoothie, no matter how much we have good ingredients and no matter how much we want to make that smoothie. So we have to make sure that we have a good equipment. And I think the mindset is the first place to begin. So the belief system encompasses how we think. It also encompasses things like limiting beliefs. What are the things that limit your thinking? The things that limit you seeing yourself being successful in your weight management. Because if I believe that I will never lose weight, I am not going to lose weight. If I believe that I can, then I will. And that will be a way for me to find that. It also encompasses your identity as a human being. And especially for women, a lot of the time, what I've seen personally as an experience and also coaching hundreds and hundreds of women is that when discipline is employed, we get to a point where our identity gets blurry between the choices that we make in terms of food and the idea of who we are. And unless we can separate those two, we are not going to be able to beat the tenets of the discipline that is required in healthy eating and sustaining in a culture that is so food, like it has a lot of food noise. So we want to be able to make sure that that is cleaned up and we have an identity mindset that is at a good platform to allow even the food to function. And once that is starting to create, then we can start talking about the food. And the food system has several things. One is how you eat, what time you eat, how much you eat, and also how you combine your food. Because the combination of the foods that you eat will determine the goals that you meet and the results that you get. So, in terms also of food environment, we are also talking about your sleep hygiene. We are also talking about stress management. We are talking about movement and exercise and how all those things interplay together to be able to bring a lasting change in terms of weight management or just management of any lifestyle diseases. So that's really the effect of the food system. But then we have the fellowship, where it's basically the community. And sometimes we blame other people when we are trying to establish communities and so on. So I don't have people to relate with. But there's also the aspect of me being part of that community, being the community member that I would want to see in other people. So there's the two-way in terms of building community. You have to be the community member that you would want to see in other people. And then that gives you the capacity to be able to notice other like-minded people. Because if I am not tuned myself, then I am not going to find people who are going to encourage me to my goals. I'm going to attract the people who are joking as I am. So if I'm a joker and I'm not serious with what I'm doing with my life, I'm just going to attract the same like-mindedness in other people. So I have to be that community member for me to attract other community members who are going to sharpen each other. So that's generally what we try to achieve with those three pillars coming together. We have to identify those mindsets. We have to look at the food system that is working for you and food that is not working for you. How is your sleep hygiene? How is movement? And especially depending on the age that you're in when we start talking about hormones and hormone regulation and things like that. And of course, the people around you, who you eat with, or who talks to you, who speaks to your life matters a lot. What we call the social capital.
Amazing. How can our listeners find you and learn more about the BFF mythology?
So the best way for anybody to reach out to me is come join me on my school community. I have a school community called Weight Loss and Faith, and that's where I do a lot of the communication, and then you get the free resources, and you can also get directly in touch with me. And then if somebody ever wanted to book a one-on-one call with me, or they just want to have the tools and resources that I've created, the best way to reach me is through the school community. That's the most encompassing way to find me.
Amazing. And I'll also link your information in our show notes. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. I need to get on this with you about yeah.
Come on, let's talk this. Let's build it. Let's make it practical and personal for you. I'm all about personalizing and just making it practical for you in the season where you are, in the timing that you are in.
Yeah, amazing. All right. So a last thing that we do is a rapid fire question. So I'm gonna ask
Okay.
this or that. Okay.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Me too. Favorite healthy snack?
Cashews.
One food people shouldn't fear.
Carbohydrates. I will put it as a group because a lot of people are just kind of discarding carbs altogether, and they shouldn't fear carbohydrates. Yeah.
One habit that changed your life.
Opening myself up, being vulnerable to people who loved me. Yes.
And then I guess these are more rapid fire questions versus this or that. But what is your favorite Bible verse for encouragement?
I have a lot, but I think the one that I can just live by without anything else is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down. I can go through it all, but that would be my favorite.
What's one message you hope every mom listening today hears? Oh.
There is hope in the moments that seems very despairing and very hopeless. There is hope. And the hope for your health, the hope for your relationships, the hope for your children, the hope for the things that matter to you as a mom can be found in God, can be found in your faith in God. And don't run away from the people that love you. Don't shut yourself up from the people that love you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and all of your knowledge with us today. I'm going to tag your information in the show notes so that our listeners can find you. And it was so nice to talk to you. And it's so nice to hear your blend of faith and nutrition and resilience and motherhood. And you're creating warm and practical advice and conversations for our audience.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Before we go, I just want to say thank you. The Mommy Pod is built in the middle of real life. Work, kids, laundry, rebuilding, and dreaming. And every time you listen, share, or support what we create here, it truly matters. If this episode spoke to you, one of the best ways to keep this podcast going is by supporting our Mommy Pod products. From our children's books and activity books to our calming sprays and digital downloads designed for moms and parents and families. Everything you purchase goes directly back into keeping the show alive. And if you can't purchase right now, sharing this episode with another parent means just as much. Thank you for being here.